Hi everyone, and welcome to our latest monologue. And today it's sort of a rehash of something that certainly my friend Wandy and Joy has spoken about so much, and it's about work. She's talked a lot about work, but I think what frustrates me most is the way people don't get what she's saying. And this came home to me a few days ago. There's a video on this channel that I published on the 16th of August. It's about the gender agenda. And within that, I talked about affirmative action. And there's a key part where I referred to the people we nominate to our legislatures and the people we elect. Um, and I referred to Ruben Kigame, who was a presidential candidate. And I said, Ruben Kigame has probably got a great vision for Kenya, but we didn't elect him. And even those elected did not see the value in nominating him to any legislative office. But now this is what triggered me was a comment that just came 3 days ago. Someone asked me like, what do you mean by saying Ruben Kigame has a vision for Kenya? Yet I thought it was very obvious. And he added there sort of I think intending to be helpful that are you actually aware that Ruben Kigame is visually impaired? So this guy basically thought I'm mistaken in thinking that someone who is visually impaired can have a vision for Kenya. Now, at I was taken aback, and it's taken me a lot of thinking to understand what's going on here. But the fact is, this is not unique. I told someone about it and they laughed. I thought, oh my God, that's so bizarre. That's so dumb, whatever. But it's not unique. Thinking, and a lot of times, we wonder that why does Kenya society suffer so much intellectually? Why do we fail to see what's around us, to understand what's around us, to think about things? And it's not a limitation in our capabilities. It's it's sloth. It's a limitation in what we are willing to do. We are not willing to work. And this is it. We are not incapable of thinking, but we are not willing to do so because thinking is probably the hardest work you can find. It's really difficult. Even coming up just with I know what I want to say, just coming up with what to say even on this channel, it's not easy. And and then it suddenly made sense. So many things suddenly made sense to me. Um and it happens in our everyday lives, and for those who are lucky to have visited other countries and experienced other societies, will notice a lot of uniqueness. A lot of this sloth is unique to Kenyan society. I have many friends online, um, and occasionally I post photographs. And I photograph birds in my free time, and occasionally I get a really good shot because I managed to sit and wait somewhere, and the light was just right, and I got the setting right, and got a good shot of a bird. You post that, a lot of my most of my friends will say, "Wow, that's a wonderful photograph," and all that. But there's always one or two, and only Kenyans who will say, "That's a wonderful camera." How do you even know what camera I was using? Cameras don't take photographs. People take photographs. Um, Occasionally, you will even those who post photographs, you will be asked, "What kind of camera do you use?" I'd also like to take photos like that. What kind of camera is that? Instead of saying, "Wow, that's a good photograph." If you see a car driving by, going 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 through mud or performing well, I don't know why. I don't know why you'd think that it's only because of the type of car that is. You could give someone the very same car and he couldn't go up that hill or through that mud because there's the human abilities, and we keep denying the human part of whatever we are doing. I think that explains why Kenyans are so excited over AI, over chat GPT, over all these things. You see, even the conman who got appointed chancellor of University of Nairobi, that's what he could come up with. As he wants to make a school of AI, and he's got praise for it. It's because we abhor the work of thinking. And look, just to touch on various professions, we've had many incidences of buildings collapsing, and that's because of they didn't it did not consult there was no engineer consulted in the whatever metal bars or cement mixing and all that. It didn't consult an engineer or didn't consult an architect to do the designs of the columns or whatever whoever it is does that, but that intellectual work was not done. If you look at the building, these buildings that collapse, they're always multi-story buildings. That's worth a lot of money. These are 50, 60, 70, 80 million shilling structures that are collapsing. So they are not built by poor people, they're built by wealthy people. But that wealthy person cannot fathom paying a consulting engineer, I don't know, I'm not sure what it costs, maybe 1 or 2 million shillings to give the correct formulas for metal bars and the way they build the columns and that kind of thing, because he doesn't see that as work. And I can guarantee you, he paid full cost, as he should, paid full cost for the sand, for the ballast, for the metal bars, for the metal sheets, for the tiles, the pipes, the fittings. Those material things paid full cost. But he cannot recognize intellectual work that went into designing. Lawyers will tell you, there's this famous phrase, uniquely Kenyan phrase, wakili a quick one. Someone wants legal advice, but he doesn't think he should pay for it because it's intellectual work, but he doesn't recognize intellectual work. So people go into deals. He might get conned of 100 million shillings because he got into a deal to buy some land, and the paperwork wasn't in order, but he couldn't pay a lawyer 100,000 shillings just to handle the conveyance because he doesn't recognize intellectual work. And this is the problem. Those of us in the natural resource um, uh, conservation field, we know this Kenya suffers because of very poorly thought out conservation projects or development projects vis-a-vis environment. But our work is constantly being stolen. I can tell you for a fact, any NGO that advertises a consultant is interested in stealing work. Why do I say so? NGOs are donor funded. There is no donor who gives money without having been given a proposal and work plan. So when an NGO then advertises for for a consultant to implement a donor funded project and asks the consultant to give a, a work plan and financial proposal, then you wonder, do they have the money? How did they get the money for it? Otherwise, what's usually happening is that this NGO is trying to solicit funds from somewhere, but they're too lazy or indolent to do the intellectual work of writing a proposal. So advertise a fake project and have consultants, experts write really good proposals, thinking that they are competing for a job, but they're just writing a proposal for someone who's paid a salary to do that work. And that's how it is. It's very common. We've even had scholars caught out plagiarizing their students' work. And at the Kenya School of Law, no less an institution, and many other institutions, we are constantly stealing proposals, stealing ideas, um, stealing even lines. I even saw a billboard on Thika Road with the governor's face saying, "Making Kiambu Great Again." You couldn't come up with anything. You had to steal something from Donald Trump some 10,000 miles away. This is the saddest part of our plight in Kenya. And that is why even the current goings on, like the impeachment hearings about the deputy president, no one can, not no one, but very few people can actually see that outside the prism of the personalities involved. This is a constitutional argument that is about our country's future and the structure of our leadership. But people keep saying uh, things like, I don't care for Rigathi Gachagua. He deserves whatever is happening to him. I support Kindiki, or I support this, and I don't. People talk about the personalities. No one's talking about the issues. People say that, oh, so and so. Even the lawyers argue, and people are saying, so they're talking about the appearance of the lawyers, the quality of English the lawyers are speaking. No one wants to think about what the lawyers are actually saying and what's actually going on. And this is our greatest weakness as a society. This is why we just don't want to work. And I receive so many communications all the time. People asking, I see online, people are asking for advice on everything. And the advice, someone wants to do a PhD project, and they're writing to me asking me where they should do it. I don't care where you do it. And certainly, the place you do it shouldn't be the place that Mordecai thought you should do it. It should be where you decided, for whatever reason, to do it. Um, you find people even ask about reading. I've talked a lot about reading, and we abhor reading. We are terrified of reading. But even when someone's willing to read, I've had people actually write to me and ask me, like, what should I read? What you should read depends on what you want to know, because reading is to gain knowledge. Um, One of the many books I have is a biography of Diego Maradona, the late, the late great footballer. And the reason I bought that book is because Maradona was at his peak when I was growing up, and I was enthralled by his skills. There wasn't a book out on him back then. I probably didn't have the money to buy one. So later on, as an adult, I came across this biography of him. I said, my God, I remember this guy's beautiful skills. I want to know what made him tick. So I bought the book, and that's why I have the book. I can't recommend, if someone asks me, what should I read? Why should I recommend to you the biography of Diego Maradona? He probably doesn't mean anything to you. It certainly doesn't mean to you what he meant to me growing up. So you need go out there and read on what you want to find out. How many Kenyans do you hear boasting that I don't read newspapers? And we actually think it's a mark of distinction. How many Kenyans do you hear saying, I don't watch news on TV? I don't watch, some even say, I don't watch TV. If you don't, well, the problem is not the TV. The problem is the material you watch on TV. On TV, there are even cooking shows which can teach you how to cook nice, tasty meals. Are you a perfect cook? Don't you have anything to learn there? There are gardening shows, there's environment shows, there are parenting shows, sports, there's wildlife shows. But you say don't watch TV, like TV is an intellectual item. TV is an electronic device. Newspapers report what's going on in our country. Even if it's foolish, you need to know what the foolishness is going on so you don't do it. It reports court cases of people who have been conned out of land. Maybe you want to buy land, you can read that about that case and learn something about purchase of land and not fall into the same trap. There are things for sale. The cars advertised for sale or whatever. Maybe you're trying to buy a car, you'll spot a good car there to buy. But Kenyans keep wanting to get something from somebody. I even talk about a car, and someone gets online and asks me, he wants you to give the contact of where you get your car serviced, because somehow they don't want to form a relationship with someone who does that for them. And we refuse to acknowledge the work that gets people to where they are. That's why so many people, even as we regard education, so many people want to pursue an advanced degree. so they can achieve the status of so and so. Anyone who pursues an advanced degree starting from today and you get it in the next 5 years or whatever, you will not be the same as someone who had it 5 years ago. That's not how it is. That's not how it works. That's why even in the legal profession, you see some lawyers calling themselves, he's my senior, she's my senior, this sort of thing, and they address themselves as senior. Someone who graduated and has been practicing law since 1995. If you get your law degree and practicing diploma in 2020, you are not where he is or where she is, because of what they are putting, because of the work they are putting. And that's what it is. Everything is about work. Even child rearing of children is about work. So don't expect the Kenya government to give you instructions, go jump up and down over a rock with your child, and they tell you that that's parental involvement, and now you're doing your part as a parent. Parental involvement is a continuous process. It's not splashing out a bunch of money for a kindergarten graduation. It's being involved and questioning the teacher over what they're teaching your child over the years that your child is in school. That's what it is. And I've even seen, and if you look at online interaction between Kenyans, you notice this abhorrence for work. I've seen someone actually write that my child is reaching the age where he likes being he wants to be taken to bed, told a story and all that, and he's asking people, can you please recommend for me what good book I should buy to read to my child? The child wants your company as the parent. And I promise you, you could even take a bird book and read and tell me, you see, this is the black kite. It flies in towns and it eats mice, and it nests in these tall trees and this kind of thing. And the kid will love that. He'll probably even grow up to love birds or black kites. But you're thinking that nurturing your child is not an intellectual is not an intellectual undertaking. So you think it's a material undertaking that you can ask someone, what is the best, what's the best fertilizer for orange trees, and he'll tell you this brand, go and buy it. No, it's not like that. It's about you and your child. This single book read by one person and read by another one person, the exact same book, has a completely different effect on each of them, because we're each different, and the difference between us is not physiological, it's not physical, even though the physical differences are there. The key difference between us is intellectual. And the moment we refuse and reject intellectual work, we degenerate into the sorts of society Kenya is today, that abhors work. And we readily share stupid phrases like work smart. That is something you never hear outside Kenya. Work smart. It means cheat. Look for shortcuts. Avoid thinking. Avoid the intellectual part. That's what this work smart is. And everyone is trying to do it. You're always asking for material things. You think if someone tells you if someone tells you how they did this, you'll go and do that thing and become like them. There's there's a Swahili saying, ukiona vyaelea vimeundwa. That saying is about intellectual work. It means you see anything or anyone in a certain place. He worked to get there. She worked to get there. He traveled a path to get there. She maybe sailed in a boat or flew in a plane and walked to get there. Don't just see them as sitting in Nanyuki. There's a way they got to Nanyuki. And no two paths can be the same. Even if you walk the exact same path they walked, your experience will not be the same. And that's the essence of intellectual work. Intellectual work, even in relationships, even in love relationship. Love is a verb. It's not just this random word. And to love someone is work, and it's supposed to be. because there are things you do to show love. It's not something you just profess. So there are things you do, and you can see Ken, Kenyans commonly avoid that, and they say, "I'm looking for a woman or a man or a partner who is like this, like this, like this." Even stupid material considerations like, is this tall, or is this short, or has this sort of physical dimension, or has this sort of complexion, and or even owns this. Some things you even speak of things that can be purchased as criteria, avoiding any indication of intellectual content in what you see this ideal relationship to be. And this is why our government is getting away with abusing us all the time through the education system, through the so-called university funding system, through the so-called health social health insurance system. None of these are meant to work for us, but because we don't want to do the intellectual work of thinking about them, we keep talking about their problems in implementation. There's teething problems. You are the problem. We need more public awareness and this kind of thing. Work is what makes the world go round. Intellectual work, be it intellectual work, artistic work, scientific work, physical work. Work is what makes the world go round. And the moment you start avoiding work, everything starts falling apart. And that may be the reason why there's so reason behind so many of the problems we are experiencing as a society.